Am I
What's
close
up,
enough?
everybody? Profitable Stylist. Here we go. Eddie Ohanian, Bernard Ori. We're going to be doing the origins of hair that Bernard has been teasing about for the past couple of weeks now. He's been so excited to do this one. What's up, Bernard? Morning.
Hey, origins. Or I know it sounds like I've been watching a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson lately, and so I'm thinking origins of the universe. We're not going that far. We're just doing like just one little planet right here. So many people talk about quality of hair. Is it this? Is it that? All these words and names, and it drives me crazy because once you're on the inside and you know about hair, there's no such thing as some of these names. And then some of these names mean nothing at all. I'm trying to be so careful on how I say this because I don't necessarily want to slam any particular company or say something that offends people in a way like people that think Brazilian hair is the best hair. Oh, are you using that Brazilian hair? Let's use one that I know is very unoffensive right now, Remy hair. What is Remy? Now, we're going to talk about human, synthetic, quality of hair, where it comes from. But the one that drives me the most crazy is Remy hair. Because I teach a lot of classes, hair replacement, hair extensions. I just taught this on-stage hair extension. Beat it topper class. I still got stuff set up behind me, I noticed. I thought I'd just leave it up, make me look a little like, instead of just a wall, you always got all that fancy stuff behind you. I thought I'd have some stuff to fill my screen. But with all these classes, I did a test for like one whole year. I asked every class, some had 5 or 6, some had 20. I asked them, what is Remy hair? Do you know what the word Remy means? Do you know it was so rare that a person even knew what the word meant? I would have 1 or 2 out of 10 or 20 people that would raise their hand or think they knew, and half the time they weren't even right then. They would just say high quality hair or only hair from a certain country, but very few knew what it meant.
My favorite answer was, that's my cousin's name.
Okay, Remy hair. Just Remy or Remy hair?
No, Remy.
Yeah. And so I would love for somebody to like timestamp this, put in the comment before I say it. Like, what is Remy hair? It's not that fancy. I know somebody's going to get nervous and say, I think this is a trick question. It's really
Ooh.
the word itself. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Don't say it yet.
Don't say
it at
it
the
yet.
end.
And if somebody can give an answer, we'll give them something.
Oh, I don't know what we'll give you. So you want to
I don't know
Remy
yet.
hair?
We just made that up.
We got to give them hair. That's what we do, know? So they're going to look it up on Google, But yeah. So if somebody puts it before I say it, and I'm going to say it really soon, because this is my favorite story, because people in the class would say, but I saw at Sally's or the beauty supply this pack of hair. I only used this 100% human Remy hair. All these words that describe, I guess when you put a bunch of words together, it must be better. Now, I remember like 20 years ago when I got into extensions, and 30 years ago when I got into extensions, there was pretty much only wefts. We were sewing, gluing, tying, knotting, whatever. I wasn't really good at the little cornrow braids, so I used this machine with these strings and did this braid on the head. We put a weft on there, we'd sew it, and it was tight as heck, and we'd say, you've got to take something for pain for the first day, but then you're going to love it. You still want to do this? And they would. But this lady one time, the company, I don't even know if it's around anymore, but I always loved the name. It was in Texas. It was called Garland Drake. You ever heard of Garland Drake?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and they sold a lot of wefted hair, and I was buying a bunch of it. And then one day, I wish I could remember her name. She said, Bernard, you buy a lot of hair. You want to try the tangle-free hair? I said, there's no such thing. Hair tangles. And she said, no. No tangle guaranteed. No tangle guarantee for 90 days or something like that. And I was like, what? So I said, hair is hair. And she goes, oh, hair is not hair. So I remember being one of those uneducated stylists. And I had not, I mean, you got to admit, or you got to realize that 30 years ago, not everybody was doing color and highlights. I mean, the sales reps were saying when they come into your salon, everybody can benefit from color. Everybody can benefit from highlights. You should do more of it. Now you look around the room, you can barely see someone that doesn't have some kind of chemicals in their hair, color, highlights, something. Yeah. So we were at a time where not everybody was getting chemicals. So for me to say everybody's hair is the same, we didn't have the experience people have now of some blown out, damaged, bleached up, overlifted hair that we have now. So at the time I was like, hair is hair. And she said, oh no, I'm going to send you a book. There's 4 of them, but I'm going to give you the first one for free. And I read about the quality of hair, and I started to understand more chemically damaged. And I was like, oh, so going back to Remy, what is Remy? You want to say what Remy is first, and then I'm going to go over some other things? Are you scared to say what Remy is?
No, right. Now you got me all nervous, right? Remy hair, oh boy. No, it's, look, it's the same source. The cuticle all goes in the same direction.
That's it. That's all Remy is. That's it. So people like to put a lot more words to it, but it's that simple fact that the hair, so most people's hair on their head, 100% of people's hair on their head is Remy right now. It just means when they take the hair off the head, you keep it in line. And people go, why would it be any other way? Because of where hair comes from. It comes off floors, counters, brooms, dustpans. People don't realize how dirty the low end of the hair business can be. And it's just hair grabbed up in a big ball and then sorted out. And there's no way that all the hair is going in the same direction. Some is this way, some is that way. And those cuticles lock together when it's non-Remy. But I always say that's just where it begins. Remy hair is just where it begins. All the cuticle going in the same direction just seems like a good idea, right? It should all. But that's difficult. So that costs a little bit more money to make sure, not to mention just that bundle of hair, if it's cut off on both ends, it could be upside down and then sold to you and upside. It could still, I guess that would still be considered Remy. It's going all in the same direction. It's just the wrong. I never thought about that.
Oh, okay. That's a little trippy.
Sometimes the companies get it wrong and they're getting Remy hair, but then they when they cut it blunt on each end, it's hard to see it with the naked eye.
That's where you get silky smooth from. Yeah. That's where you get that silicone coatings.
So the next few things that I like to go into, but we should probably take this back just a tiny bit before we go into the next one, is we're talking about hair, right? So I don't want to go into all the different animal fibers, though they're there also, but anything that looks like or acts like or we use as hair. And I think synthetic hair is a big one. And you did a lot of research on synthetic hair. And so before we go into some of the higher and lower qualities of even in the Remy hair situation, synthetic is probably as widely used as human through wigs and so many other things. And there's some upsides and downsides to synthetic hair. And so with some of your research on synthetic hair, what did you find interesting?
So from, I love the science. I know you always call me a nerd all the time. So if you start snoring, I swear, all this work for nothing.
Y'all should see the book he wrote on his research.
I put a lot of work into this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You didn't. No. I mean, I hope you loved it.
I'll keep it simple. I see that
you found some old names I forgot about, like Kanekalon, Tupalon. There's Parama hair, Cyber hair. There's so many names. But what is it in general?
So at a base level, you got synthetic hair, and that it's the most base one, right?
What's it made of?
What's that?
What is it made of?
I can't say these words. Propanol, how you say that? Propylene.
Plastic.
Yeah, plastic, right. No, and that's what it is, And so it's the cheapest one. You can't use heat on it. It's gonna melt. It's gonna burn. It's just it is, and look, they all have their places. The next one up from there is more. It's called Kanekalon, if I'm saying that correctly.
I don't know if there's a right way. We always called it Kanekalon, but maybe it's
A Kanekalon, I don't know. I can't say. I can barely say half the regular words, let alone scientific words. I just like the science, But that one's more like acrylic. It's made out of more like a acrylic substance type thing. So meaning it can take a bend, it can take some heat, it will hold some style. It's a little bit more commonly used. It's really more popular in braiding. So just because it can hold that shape for, X amount of time, something like that. The highest grade that they got is Toyokalon.
I can't say it. I saw that one. That was one I hadn't seen before.
So that's a newer one. It's a very high grade fiber. It's almost like how you do the blind taste test stuff, and you're like, oh, you can't tell the difference, one and one versus the other. They blind test that one against human
with hair.
Yeah, human hair.
So okay, slow down, nerd. We might be losing some people. Let me just dumb this down a little bit for the people like me. Basically, what Eddie's saying is all of these synthetic fibers are made out of some mix of plastics and nylons. And so some of the stronger hair is a nylon base, some of the weaker hair is plastic. But the real challenge is that synthetic hair is large, big, and human hair is smaller and then different sizes depending on where it comes from in the world. So with all these synthetic hairs, the first big challenge to make it seem like human is getting it smaller but strong enough, because it's stronger than human hair. But at a quick pull, it breaks because it doesn't have the stretch. Human hair has that stretch, even though it's considered weaker and smaller. It has a lot of stretch before it breaks. It can take a lot of heat. It's porous. So let's talk about some of those characteristics. Synthetic hair does not absorb water. It doesn't have a cuticle layer, so it's flat and smooth, and it's bigger in diameter, and it can't take the heat. So those are some of the just facts. Some are good, some are bad. And so to make it seem more like human hair, what do they have to do?
So that's the difference in like using plastic versus nylons versus the different fibers that they're doing. Those are going to add elasticity, and those are going to add tensile strength, so they can hold better when they're attached to the contact point. Yeah. As far as the porosity goes, that's where you start running into weaving in those microfibers and such. That's what gives it some absorbency to moisture. So this way it can take a bend. It can be shaped with heat. It can actually take heat, take a bend with heat, and then actually hold that bend for X amount of time before it inevitably, straightens back out again.
I'm glad you gave me the permission to call you a nerd, because I never really called you a nerd. That just must be how you feel when I say, all right, too much research. But since you're there, I don't know the number, but what's the temperature that hair melts at? And I mean, I know it depends on how damaged it is, but
no, I mean, look, on average, 392. 392. That's why we're always talking about, less than 400.
Why are our irons going up to 450?
And then we got irons going up to 450, But 450, those has its places. Those are, see, that's the problem. We're always talking about less than 400 degrees because nobody can remember 392. But when these irons are going up to 450 degrees, those are for very specific treatments. Those are for very specific situations. We're trying to use heat as a driver to compact some product into the cuticle, and we're using heat as the source to open up that cuticle to make it pliable, where we don't have oxidation in hair color, or we don't have different pre-treatments that we would use. Like in hair extensions, we clarify the hair, and by clarifying, shampooing the hair, we're in essence pre-softening the hair to slightly raise that cuticle, the chelation, to slightly raise that cuticle so our contacts can make, stronger.
So clean, dry hair would melt at 392, but when you put products on, you're buffering, and the higher temperature isn't really getting through to that. So that's why we can use higher temperatures. Well, that's a good point to bring up, because synthetic hair cannot take that temperature. And that challenge is that the lower end plastic hairs are melting with the slightest bit of heat. And then the higher heat, they call it high heat fiber, they're known for being able to take more heat, maybe even be able to be reshaped. And that's a whole another video that we should do, because I love this topic. You can reshape your grandmas and moms and synthetic wigs with steam, wet heat. A high wet heat will change the curl, but a dry heat will melt the plastic hair. But one of the ways they try to make these fibers seem more like human hair is they try to make it smaller, and then they try to rough up the edges, and then they try to make it where it can take more heat so that it can actually be shaped. Because if we're going to wear extensions on our head, I mean, I know we're talking about extensions, hair replacement, all kind of things, but if you're just doing, like you said earlier, cornrow braids or dreads, synthetic fiber is a great option because it's very, very inexpensive. And why spend all that money for a hair that you're going to purposely control with a braid or tangle or mat and knot up in a dread? In a dread, so, yeah. Right. So then it's a great option. But then let's move into human hair real quick, because we started to touch on it, and this is what got me. This girl tells me one time, well, Sally sells 100% human Remy hair. I said, okay, 100% is human hair. 100%. That's fine. Okay, so now we know. Let's keep these categories separate. Well, now we know if they don't lie, because there's no government regulations. It could still have synthetic, which sucks. It's sad. But the truth is, there could still be some synthetic. So you don't really know till you test a company's product. But at least the words are a starting point. If somebody's brave enough to say it, hopefully they'll get slammed on social media if they lie. But 100% human hair. So it's not synthetic. That's a start. Now, the second one is 100% human Remy. The cuticle is going in the right direction. That's all it's saying, is that it's human and it's Remy. Now, the next two or three things that are important is, let's move from synthetic to human hair. Where does the human hair come from? And there are Asian cultures that have the largest, the Asian culture of our planet. We don't know about, Neil says there's no aliens. He just doesn't believe. But I mean, I think there are. I just don't know if we've seen them yet. And I don't know if they have hair. But since we're still that lower form and we still have to deal with this hair, or we love it, worship it in some cases, the Asian culture has the largest diameter hair. And believe it or not, the American Indians had the most cuticle layer of any culture. Very hard to penetrate those multiple levels of cuticle. So just some interesting facts about hair. So most Americans are somewhere between the European, Scandinavian descendants. And so they're looking for more of a European hair. So the hair that matches us better comes from more of the Indian side of the world, between there and Russia and the highlands of the Caucasus Mountains. And that's a smaller hair. So if we're just talking about the size of the hair, of course you've got straight, wavy, curly, which is a whole nother topic. You can't go too long on it, but do you want to talk some about curl? Because I know you did a lot of research on curl. You think you could sum it up?
No, that's a whole thing in itself. Okay. All that curl stuff, natural body texture of hair is really what it comes down to, right? And that's the big debate right now, is everybody's going on about the texture of hair. So really what it comes down to is you got natural body, and there's like two levels of natural body. You've got 3 levels of wavy. You got like 4 common levels of curly. And then you've got a couple of extra things in between that are like the redheaded stepchild that nobody really talks about, right?
Right. So right. And so that's interesting that you say that, because it reminds me of when people talk about fine, medium, or coarse, and so you've got to really know, like, are we talking about the size of each hair or how many of them per square inch? So that's just again,
density versus diameter is really what it's coming down to.
Right. And so sometimes, if you ever notice your mannequins for hair school, with the hair mannequins we cut on, it looks like there's like a half an inch between each hair. You can see where each hair gets put into the mannequin. There's a good example of a Chinese origin hair. The hair that is gotten from China, a larger diameter hair, it's so big that if they put them as close together as most Americans' hair, then it's just this ponytail that is just ridiculously big because each hair fiber is so large. So they spread them out on there so that when you hold the ponytail in general. So that's why it's hard to practice extensions and fine work near the scalp, because they're such large hairs. You can't get a tiny little grouping as well. And that gives people a visual of the size of hair. When you buy a more expensive mannequin head that's more designed for updos, color, highlights, you'll notice the hairs are closer together, but the ponytail's no bigger or smaller. It's just that the hair fibers are smaller, and that's why it's more expensive. It's coming from, and I didn't really talk about that earlier, China still has the most people in the smallest land mass. They have the largest population for the people that are donating hair, for all the different reasons people donate hair. So they have it's the most plentiful source of hair. That's why so many mannequins, wigs, things are made out of it. It's inexpensive for human hair, whether it's Remy or not. And then we go into more expensive, smaller, more desired, supply and demand. There's less of the other hairs. And then if you put more work into it, it's going to cost more. So that's why I say that the origin is first, where the hair comes from. Just because it's 100% human Remy hair doesn't tell you where it's from. If it's inexpensive, it's probably going to be Chinese hair. And then if we're going to start to get into hair that is more expensive, it's because of two more things. One is chemical damage, or just chemical processing.
Processing in general, right?
Yeah. Doesn't necessarily have to be damaged, but talk a little bit about the difference in how chemicals can or can't damage hair really quick in a salon compared to how it's done in a factory.
So, at a salon, wow, that's a question. At a salon level, okay. So you got, what do you got? You got perms, you got keratin treatments, and you got hair color, right? And then within hair color, you got demi-permanent, permanent, and you got bleaches. So even at all of those levels, we are controlling, everything is so regulated that we can only ever cause so much damage per se. We can never truly depending on who you are, maybe you can destroy somebody's hair. But,
you have to try.
You have to try, right? You have to whether purposely or ignorantly try, and then you can destroy hair. But at the factories, what they're doing is they're doing a lot. The process, and in a salon, that's the biggest difference. We're doing everything within 30 minutes to an hour. Whereas in a factory, this process, it takes 2, 3, almost 4 weeks sometimes, depending on what they're trying to, they're trying to sanitize, cleanse, prep, and then color. And then they're coloring the extensions here.
And then color.
Right. And that's all being done with a textile dye. And then after the textile dye, they have to go back in and deep condition, like deep treat the hair to seal it in and lock it all in. So where we do all of what we're doing within, like I said, like an hour, they're doing it in 30 days, up to 30 days. That's the biggest difference.
And the lower end companies are doing it just like we do it. They're just bleaching it, lifting it. I'm using a harsh word on purpose because low end company, they're bleaching it and coloring it and then sending it out. And so it's
I think the most time they spend is sorting out the hair. You're talking about like floor hair you're talking about.
That's right. I'm talking about the reject hair from the higher end companies.
Yeah.
So the process you described is why hair costs so much from a higher end company. So if you get human Remy hair of the right origin, and then they go through that chemical processing you just talked about, that takes time. So that's going to be a little more expensive. It's going to last a little longer. The color's going to stay a little bit better. But if you quickly just bleach it and color it, bleach and dye, if you just bleach and dye like a lower end company, then that's exactly what the hair is going to do. Die on that client's head really soon. It's just not going to last. But some people want lower end, really cheap hair. Maybe even to get started or practice or experiment on mannequins. It's a good idea. Again, a time and a place for everything. But when you start stepping up and you want less problems, less concerns, to be more real, blend a little better, you want that higher end hair. It comes with a price. It definitely comes with a price. And so that's why I like to talk about origins of hair, because it's I mean, it's probably not the best title because we're also talking about how the hair was treated. I mean, I know we're saying ethically sourced and humanely treated, but I mean, the hair's not alive once it's on the head, so that doesn't really matter if it's humanely treated. It just makes it a more expensive product if it's treated better because it was so close to alive. I know some of you guys think hair's alive. It's dead, and we can't fix it once it's bad. So you got to treat it right from the beginning. Do you agree with that?
No, I completely agree with that because so you need to have the best condition to start with. So by the end of the process, you're at good condition or great condition, whatever, like best, great, good, poor, whatever scale you want to use, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, you got to start with the highest that you got. So by the time you're done, it degrades a little bit. And then that goes, and then we use that to put that on our client's hair. And then within 24 hours, they've degraded it down to the floor. And
well, you're talking about grade. They put grades on hair, A, AA, AAA hair. I mean, I've done a lot of research on that, and there is no standard for that. That's another one of the things that drives me crazy. Just because somebody says we have AA hair, double drawn hair, triple drawn hair, what does it mean? When they draw it, what do you mean double drawn? I mean, they're pulling more of the shorter hairs out. That is not always a great thing. Do you realize if you do double drawn hair completely correctly, what it means is they're pulling all the short hairs out and all the hairs are the same length from start to finish. All that means is the ends are too thick because natural hair has a lot of different lengths, gets thinner at the ends. And so when you get lower end hair, sometimes it's too thin at the ends, and that's the problem. So then people say, I got to cut 3 inches off. So why am I paying for that 20-something inch
doing all this
hair?
extra work to taper it.
So I want the double drawn hair so I can thin it out myself at the ends. So, I mean, if it's the right thinness at the ends, it can make the hair a little less expensive from the company because double drawn pulls out a lot of that expensive hair. And now you got to pay more because you got to get more of the long hairs. And so I'm not a fan of double drawn hair, although it is a word used to talk about better quality hair. And there's no consistency on or what should I say, scale. There's no I don't even know what the word is.
That's what it is. There's no chart. There's no there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's a marketing, it's just a marketing thing that people made up that sounds good, just like 100% human, Remy, silky smooth, this, that.
Right. And so then Brazilian is one of them. The last few classes I've gone to, people say, is your hair Brazilian hair? There is not. I mean, the sad truth about the hair market is that the best hair starts off virgin hair, right? Not colored, not processed. Who is not coloring and not processing their hair in this time in history? The poorer people. So countries where there are big groups of people who just don't have the money to color the hair, don't have the money to get haircuts, and don't really care or enjoy their long hair, or just grow hair because it's there and don't care what it looks like. Maybe they're even of a religious sect where they cover their whole body and their head. They don't even show their hair. So whether their hair is cut or not doesn't really matter to their culture. So they cut their hair, and this is a big thing in India. They cut their hair and they either donate it to the temple as an offering, or they get a little money for their hair. So whatever they do, it's definitely not taking advantage of them for us to buy the hair. It's usually supporting their culture because the church is selling the hair to help pay the bills because the people are too poor to pay the bills. So they donate the hair gets sold. That's how the church is supported. And then it's Remy, human. It's all the cuticle going in the same direction, and it's not processed. That's the best hair. So there's really not enough poor people in that group in Brazil to donate hair. So there's no real supply for Brazilian or any of the other fancy names that have the name of a country in it. Indian hair and Chinese hair are the only two names I've ever heard that describe where hair comes from that actually has enough people to give
they
hair.
Have the population to support that, right?
They have the population. So Brazilian hair, as a matter of fact, is more than just a quality reference recently. It's a curl reference. People say, I want the Brazilian curl. It's fine if you put a name on something and you give it, but there's no standard there either. Mostly it means it's supposedly a high-end quality hair, but it also comes synonymous with a particular curl pattern, which is just a marketing ploy. That's fine. Call it that. But just know it's not coming from Brazil. It doesn't mean it's Brazilian hair. There just isn't enough of it. They had Swedish hair, they had Danish hair, they had Russian hair. I mean, through the years, people come up with names to make it sound fancy. That's the same thing with the A ratings and the double drawn. Mm-hmm. People want to hear some fancy words. The fact is, try a company that has a good reputation, look at the reviews, and then try the hair. You have to sample it yourself. Companies try to get me to use their hair all the time. They see me on videos and they want me to, and they say, we have the best hair. You're going to love it. You want to sell it for us? I say, send me some. I'll test it. I'll put it on one of my hairdressers and they'll wear it for a couple of weeks, days, months, depending on the quality. And most of the time it's terrible. Most of the time. So you've got to test the hair. That's how I ended up finding the Onstage brand, the Onstage beaded strands, the Onstage beaded wefts, and the Onstage beaded topper. We literally tested that on hairdressers in my own salon and some customers for free. And when they said, this hair doesn't shed, oh my God, it holds a curl so well. I love it. I was like, wait, doesn't shed. That's unheard of. So,
no, that's how we found the she hair extensions. It was similar, situation.
Right.
We tried it out and we played around with it and it was fun. It was great.
And loved it. Right. The color stayed so well. It didn't tangle. And then we started doing classes all over the country. And yeah, it was great. I think we kind of have to wrap it up. Did I start any subjects I didn't finish? Because I'm notorious for that.
No. We kept you on track.
Did we finish everything?
You're so happy. You are so happy today. You've been wanting to talk about this one for a long time.
I do. I love this. I think there's no books written. There's not enough people understand quality of hair. And it's just so many things from chemicals to origin to how it's treated and just the size of it. You know what? Let me do one more thing. There is a time for Chinese hair and on stage hair extensions. How long have we been? How long have we gone? Too long?
Yeah. So, okay. You get to say this one last thing.
Okay.
And then you got to say hey to, Ari.
Okay. Hi, Ari. Am I saying it right? Are you sure?
I'm not even saying it right.
Ari. So I was talking to the world educator, Mario, in Australia about the onstage hair. And I said, how are you getting these really light platinum blondes? They aren't mushy when they're wet. They're not tangling or falling apart or shedding. And he said, a little secret. And I said, God, I don't know how Americans will take this. I don't even know if I should tell people. But I'm going to take a chance here at the end of the video because most people, they don't sign off a little early. And if they stay to the end, they're going to get a really good story. He said, you know what we do? We mix some Chinese hair in there. I said, wait, what? He said, so hair starts off mostly from the Caucasus Mountains, the highlands, or India, whatever you want to say. And it's a small diameter hair. Here's the big problem with some of those areas. Their religious beliefs don't allow them to eat meat, so they lack a lot of protein. Mm-hmm. So the hair's missing a lot of protein in this finer hair. So when you try to bleach it up to a very, very light color, you definitely lose integrity. But if we start with a Chinese hair, protein in the hair, bigger hair, you know how your white t-shirts kind of get holes in them if you bleach them too much? Same thing with the hair. If you start with a bigger Chinese hair and then you bleach it, it does wear the hair down a little bit, makes it a finer hair, which we desire, but it's also got the protein. He said a certain percentage of that mixed in with another culture's hair gives us a better blonde. Now, don't tell the other extension company, but that's what the Onstage Hair Company is doing to get all those platinum blondes in such high quality. I thought that was genius. I thought, what a great idea. What a great idea. All right, go ahead, end it, Eddie. I can see you.
Go ahead and end it.
Something.
So, yeah, then we're going to have to respond to Ari too over here. All right, guys. Look, thank you guys for hanging out and watching this far. Awesome story from Bernard. We got a lot more stuff coming up. This was been highly requested for a long time. Bernard's been excited to do this one for a long time. As always, you got any comments, you got any questions, hit us up, let us know. and we will catch you all next time. Later.
Bye.